Think about a case. Initially, whenever we are going to work with the data, we have different options to deal with the data. We have different options to like work with the data. And nowadays, the data is generating on massively basis, right? It's very massive amount of data is generating throughout the process, because there was a time when we were only focusing on individual data, and that data was mostly it was your structured data, which was in a form of maybe two-dimensional information or two-dimensional data. But gradually, when the technology upgrades and the technology started upgrading, we have just find out few more categories of data. So we will be able to generate a massive amount of data. And when we are generating a massive amount of data there, so at that point of time, we also need to manage that data. But remember one thing, there are two factors that are very important to focus on. The first one is your quantity of the data, but there is one more factor is there. We call this quality of the data. So there are two terminologies which you can find out. One is known as your quantity of the data. Second one, we call them the quality of the data. Now, quantity of the data, as I have already told you, that we have n number of data resources, and then we will be able to like maintain the quality of the data according to the requirement, whatever the sorry, quantity of the data, because we can have an ample amount of information. And when we have an ample amount of information, we definitely want to make sure that the like, and definitely there will be a quality thing which is you will always find out. But sometimes only focusing on quantity of the data is not enough. We also need to maintain the quality of the data, because the more qualitative data you have, the more trustworthy data you can call it, right? It can be a most trustworthy data, and you will be able to like trust on that data. You can work with that data accordingly. You can also focus on that data as well. So that's basically the idea here. So in this module, what we will be going to cover, we will be going to discuss about cleaning, transforming, and loading the data in Power BI. That how is it possible for us to clean, transform, and load the data in Power BI? How is it possible to like work with that data in Power BI is what our focus is all about. So in this topic, there are three very important objectives that we are going to focus on. The first one is about shaping the data. Then we'll discuss about profiling the data. The second member you can find out here, we call them the profiling the data. Okay. And then the another important factor you can find out here is that we call them enhancing the structure of the data. Enhancing the structure of the data. So these are the very basic objectives that we are going to focus on in this particular module. So as far as the shaping of data is important process, or shaping a data is the concern, so definitely we need to focus on the shaping the data so that we will be able to work with the quality information as well. So just to discuss with that part, let me take you to the resources one by one, and then we will get to know what we actually want to achieve from there. So to proceed further, we have the first part, which is about shaping the data. And as I have told you, these are what objectives we will be going to discuss right away. Profiling, shaping, and enhancing the data. So what do you mean by shaping a data? Whenever I say the word shaping a data is always means to maintain the quality of the data, or you can say cleaning the data. Okay, cleaning the data and making data more effective, more effective, and making data more trustworthy is what basically the task we are actually talking about. So whenever we are going to work with the data, there are different type of benefits you can find on cleaning the data. So there are multiple benefits of clean data. We will be able to go with more accurate results. We have a better organized tables. We have a simpler data navigation, and we can use the human readable values. So according to our own customized values, according to our own customized information, according to our own customized naming conventions, we will be able to shape the data according to the requirement that we are focusing on, according to the requirement we are focusing on. That's the very first and the most important point that we all need to focus on. The first step here is to check for the results. So it will give you the more accurate results. Why? Because the data is completely trustworthy, number one. Second thing is that organized table, because now whatever relationship that needs to be established between the tables, they will definitely be valuable over there. And because of that relationship, we can actually trust on multiple sources as well. Data navigation is simpler. Why? Because we can use approaches like drill down approach or a drill through approach. Okay, by using a drill down or drill through, we will be able to again navigate towards my data on multiple levels, on multiple processes as well. And we will use our own customized human readable values so that it is easy, or it will be easy for a person or a user, or basically an end user, to read the data in a more effective manner. So while going with this whole process, we actually follow some very important factor. And the first factor we have, identifying column headers and names. So here we actually use this tool. You all know it very well, Power Query Editor. This Power Query Editor helps you to shape, or you can say transform, your imported data. You can accomplish actions like renaming columns or tables, changing text to numbers, removing rows, setting the first row as headers. And there are many other aspects and many other processes are there which you will be able to focus on. So it is very important to shape your data to ensure that it meets your needs and is suitable for use and reports. Because remember one thing, until unless you don't have a qualitative data, there is no point of spending time on it. Why? Because the output that you are expecting might not be appropriate. And when the output is not appropriate, so definitely that's where the trouble goes on. So that's why it is very important, very crucial to always maintain the quality of the data that you are focusing on. And I will show you that in a minute, that how to maintain it. So we can also be shaped table structure, because with Power BI Desktop, we can connect to different type of data sources. I can connect with an Excel sheet. I can use SQL Server. I can connect with CSVs, TXTs. And with the help of that, I will be able to get connected. And then we can easily be able to read all those data gradually as well. But when you are going to work with the table structure right here, this table structure have some very important factors that we generally focus on. And when I say important factors, so what I want to say this, let me get my pen ready. So initially, whenever you are working with your data, so the first thing we can have, we actually call them the promoted headers. They are known as your promoted headers. What do you mean by promoted headers? Whenever a table is created in Power BI Desktop, Power Query Editor assumes that all data belongs in table rows. Well, sometimes there is a data source may have a first row that contains column names, which is basically a very important part. You can find out here as well, right? So if you can see right now, currently, we can have data processes like November, December. These are the month-wise data. We can also consider them as a column as well. Or if you can just give a look at this point of time, I have a product subcategory. I have a name. This name may be a column name as well. So we need to ensure, we need to make sure, right, that we should promote the first table row into column headers if it is a column headers kind of information. So that's the first important factor that we need to work on, right? Moving with the promoting headers. The second important factor we can have is all about, you should rename the columns according to your understanding, right? Because sometimes we may be using the abbreviations, which is not a good part, specifically when you are going with a reporting implementation. So it's always be a good practice to rename the columns according to the requirement, and then you can start working on that column information accordingly. And then sometimes we may have unnecessary top rows, for example, or unnecessary rows might be there. So you can remove top rows also. If this is, for example, look at this line, this is an unnecessary row, I don't need it, so I prefer to remove it as well. Or if I have some columns like a blank column or a null column or any of these type of options, so we'll definitely be able to remove them, or follow this removing concept as well. So shaping includes lots of things: promoting headers, renaming columns, removing top rows, removing columns as well. These all are some very important factors that are part of your shaping the table structure as well. Then apart from that, we can also have a concept, we call them the pivoting and unpivoting. If you all work with an Excel sheet, right, in the Excel we use pivot and unpivot. So what is an unpivot? Unpivoting is basically, as you know, it's a very useful feature. We can use this feature with data from any data source, but we need to most often use it when importing data from Excel sheet. So unpivoting streamlines the process of creating some measures on the data later, right? So if the data that you are shaping is flat, means you can say it has lot of detail but is not organized or grouped in any way, the lack of structure can complicate your ability to identify pattern for this data. So I can use pivoting column feature to convert your flat data into a table that contains an aggregate values for each unique values in a column as well. We can also be able to use the concept of unpivoting. Unpivoting is all about converting all those row based into the column based implementation, and then we will be able to represent that data. So just to understand this pivoting, unpivoting, and all those stuff, let me take you to a demo first. So in this demo, I'm going to show you pretty much unorganized data, right? In a pretty much unorganized data, that data is uh, very much unorganized, and we just need to make that data useful for our work purpose. So now if I will go there in this particular page, I can click on get data. I'm getting this data from an Excel workbook, and then I will go to this PC, E drive, course content, and then module. Okay. This is the sales matrix data. I will show you what this data is all about. So now this Excel sheet consists of only one sales sheets, and then I am going to transform the data. So now I need your help in this particular part. And why I need your help? Can you please guide me and help me the issues that you may find out in the data which is currently present in front of you? Can you please share your thoughts, what you find out problematic in this data? Okay, this was the actual data that we were talking about when we were looking at this particular point. And what you can find out, or what you can see right here, that we have column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, column 6, and so on. So what we generally do is, actually I can use a concept, we call them pivoting or unpivoting. Pivoting means changing the row type format into column type format, while unpivoting means converting a column formatted data to the row formatted data. So at this point of time, as you can see right now, there are few more issues we can take care, like null values are there, uh, and then we can have the entries for those categories, and then everything is actually be designed accordingly. Okay. So now what we can do is, let's go to the transform, and in the transform we have this option, we call them transpose. It is known as your transpose. So what is a transpose initially used? Transpose is generally used for the purpose of converting row to column and column to row implementation, right? Or
Mhm.
converting a row data into column and column data into row data. So we will be able to do it by just clicking on this simple button. So when I click on this, see how the outcome look like. The output is like this only. Now you can find out that I have null values here, null value here, but I have year 2005, 6, 7, and 8. So what we can do is we can actually consider year as an column name. So that we can monitor the data for 2005 in one location, data for 2006 in one location, for 2007 in another location as well. Second important thing is that if you can see, we have some issues there which we have discussed, like we have 0.198 is gone. So we have a 3 decimal point values. If you can see right now, we have a 3 decimal point values right now. We want to resolve this 3 decimal point values to the two decimal point values. That is what you are also going to learn right away. So just to deal with this, we will first go with this concept of use first row as headers, so that we will be able to like use the first row, or we can just implement this first row as headers. You can see there, right? That's the first row as header, step one. So now at this time, I will go there and I will hit first row as header. Yes, Leol.
So I just wanted to clarify, you're continuing from where you left off. Is that from Unpivot and Pivot, or did you continue into after that? You're showing us a demonstration, right?
This is the demonstration which I'm showing you. I'm continuing with the same part only where we ever started for the demonstration part.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm repeating it again because as I think I don't know, it was my session was automatically disconnected. I'm so sorry for that.
No
I
problem.
didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was disconnected, so we couldn't hear you. No problem.
Yes, 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 yes. Sure. So now we have column one, column two, five, six, seven, and eight, 4 years of data. You can see right now. So now, what is the what data you think is going to make sense for us initially? So if you can see right now, first of all, let's start resolving. Can you please allow the participants from your side also? I think you also have the rights to allow the participants, right? So guys, I'm requesting you, please help me out with that as well, because it's very difficult to switch from this to that particular place. Okay. So now at this point, what we can be able to find out here, I just need to show a very important point to you. Currently, if you can see, I have column one, column two, five, six, seven, eight is okay. So first, let's do very small modification. So I can rename this column name column one to country,
Country.
and this will be going to be my category. Okay. Now let's proceed further because I want to discuss one more thing. So currently I have Australia, then I have two null values, then UK two null, France null, Germany null. But what prediction which we have generated here is that if you can see right now that if I will repeat this name Australia here and here also, so it is definitely going to be a meaningful information. Why? Look at this. I have three categories here: the bikes category, the clothing category, and the accessories category, which means I can group or I can add these three categories to Australia, other three categories to UK, other information to France, and the last information to clothings. From there, if I will go towards the right, I have the figures, or you can say numbers, of year 2005. You can see there are three different views here for this, three different views for this, three for this, means three different values, and three different values for this as well, which means I can correlate that this data belongs to Australia. This is the 2005 revenue, then same with your 2006 revenue, and then 2007 revenue, finally 2008 revenue. So currently, if you can see that we are distributing the categories, distributing the country information or category information is there, the category information, and we are capturing the data for the year 2005, 6, 7, and 8. But but the problem is, this is the problem. Please understand, whenever you are going to work with reporting, in reporting, null columns are always ignored. The null columns or null values are always ignored. We cannot afford to have, or we cannot afford to put a single null value to my data, else the report will definitely not going to give you the appropriate output. So I need a solution that can help me out to fill this null gap actually. So the solution is that I can fill this information. I can fill the data here. So when I will go to the country, there is a button here. We call them fill button. This fill button is generally used to fill out the either fill down or fill up. So if I will use say fill down, so fill down will fill like Australia, then Australia will be filled here. UK will be there in two null values. France, accessories. Accessories, right? So I want to solve this issue. So I can do one thing. I can simply go to fill and I will fill down. So let's do it. And now what you can find out here is that all the data which we have filled right now, now we have entry for Australia. And see, we can relate it very easily. Australia is now giving the data for three different categories: bikes, clothing, and accessories. These categories are giving you the amount for this as well, right? Another amount you can find out right now. Okay, and then it is for year 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2008. For every particular year we are getting data. So here we have Australia, which is the country name. Category, there are three categories are there: bikes, clothing, and accessories. Then we have four different years of information: 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2008. So initially we have just reached to this particular place, and now the data is pretty much managed. But one last task I would like to perform: 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to unpivot this so that you will get a value something like this. So I know that you may have a question right here at how this data can be utilized or can be used as well. But let me start making sense for this, start making sense to this data, that why I am just following this data and what sense it is going to make for us when I'm going to get access to it. So initially, if you will see there, I know I have the repetitive values. I have almost 12 entries of Australia. I know that. There is a reason for that, why we have 12 entries. Now look at this one by one and look at this in context with this whole process. So if I can take you to the Australia right now, first of all, I have Australia. That's the country name. That's totally fine. I'm taking first four records. Categories are bikes. So I know here we have repetitive values, here we have repetitive values. But if you can see, I have data from different year. So here, if you will link it, it will be like Australia, categories bike, year is 2005, and this is the sales for 2005. This is the sales for 2005. This is the sales for 2005. Then we have 2006, and then 2007, and then 2008. So if you can see right now, this is my Australia or Australia bikes 2007, and you can see the sales of this data right now. So that's why we have repetitive values, because we have three categories which is there. The first category is bikes. The second category is clothing. and the third category is accessories. And this will be valid for UK as well. And for the whatever the other columns that we have, it is available for them as well. So this was the very specific idea that you have focused on whenever you actually want to read the data like this. So I'm using this. I have Australia, 4 entries are there because I'm capturing the data for 4 different years, for 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2008. Once it is done, I will go to home and then close and apply. So whatever changes that I have performed, now you will be able to generate data on the basis of that. So for example, if I want to, but before that, let me go to the sales. I want to make sure that this should have a currency symbol followed by a 2 decimal point, because this is what we need to arrange. This is what we need to arrange first of all. So I'm using a 2 decimal point. And now when I will click on this sales, I'm actually going to get some data. We'll go to this format and I can use data labels to see the amount that I would like to present right now. But currently this is showing you only total sales or sum of sales or total sales, whatever you want to call it. It is showing you a total sales or sum of sales as well. So you can simply go there. Total sales. Then I'm using this sales again, but by category. And then I'm going to add this resources. So this is the second option that we have like designed right now. So in this second particular part that you can see right now, I can again going to rename it. Sales by category, or just go with another. So you can see sales by category. You want to keep the this, you can keep this information as well, right? We have a sales by category text. If you don't want to use it, you can also remove it accordingly, right? Anyways, let's go to the visual now. So this is about sales by category. Back to report. You can also be able to generate the sales by country. So right click on it, rename it to sales by country, sales by category, sales by country, and you will be able to show individual report. And finally, by year. Yeah, and how we did it, right? Actually, let me tell you.
I thought that visualization is always something to do with modeling.
That's okay. So the thing is that we did whatever the necessary changes that needs to be done. Okay. After that, we have a button here. We call them close and apply. So when you click on this close and apply, whatever changes and modifications that you may have performed, those changes are going to be applied, and then you will get the data like this. So this is the report view right now. So we have a report view followed by the data view with modeling view. This is the model view. Okay. So now you can see I have these four different, so I can show my data now in different manner, and you can easily be able to check these report details as well, because you can see they are not repeating the values. We have 15.8. This is the distribution of that 15.8 on the basis of country, on the basis of year, on the basis of category. So this is how you will be able to clean your data. You will be able to clean your data. Okay.